Oh, sorry. Yeah, they kicked me out of the Bob building. So we'll go back. We'll do the scenario analysis. So I'll walk you guys through what I want for the scenario analysis. So going back to here, you could see that for the scenario analysis, you have the recommended structure, which is the recommended cases with the what's the recommended structure? It's with the DSRA dividend block hitting all those plus hitting all those three objectives we talked about, which are which are right up here. All the changes you needed to do to the model that includes the bank return 20%, DSRA above 1, equity NPV above 1. That is your recommended structure. And then your downsides 1 and 2, and then your borrower case, which is just everything up to assignment 4. So these are what the different assignments, these are what the different cases will look like. I'll send this out. So you're going to have the borrower case, which is the original model, and it's everything up to assignment number 4, no DSRA, no MMRA, etc. Then you're going to have the recommended case structure. And then so the recommended case structure is everything you needed to do, including the DSRAs, to achieve those 3, plus whatever else you need to do to get to those 3 objectives: bank return, DSRA, equity NPV, and then including the control accounts. And then plus, this is what we're going to show. So what we're going to do is, so when you get the load, so once you have the stock borrower case in there, go to your output pages, and you're just going to copy and paste this with the borrower case in there first. So do that. And then once you get to these output pages and it's everything normal, copy and paste these and paste them into these. These are the borrower case protected financials, borrower case CFADs, and whatever else. Paste those first. Then next, you're going to change your whatever structural changes you need to make to get those to hit those 3 objectives. And you can turn those into a toggle, and I'll show you guys how to do the toggle. This is the recommended case. Or sorry. And then once you get that toggle, just copy and paste that into here. Or sorry, don't do that. Blow those up, and then I'm going to send you guys the slide. Is you're going to have the underwriting case unsensitized. So it will just be the same as the borrower case with the different. And then you're just going to fill this out: revenue, fuel costs, without the sensitivities attached. And then without that. Then next, what you're going to do is you're going to apply those sensitivities, which are these. And then so only the ones in yellow you're going to do in the model as a group. So you're going to do all 6 individually. And then when you're going to apply all 6 individually, all 6 of these, and you're going to see the results, and you're going to have this output page. So each one of these are going to be sensitivity 1, so it's this. And then fuel overpriced this. And then you're going to have this. You're going to have each one of these. You're just going to do a small, just what happened when you change these scenarios. And then it's just all those. Very quick, just each one. I'll send this to you guys. You're just going to do each one of these individually. And you're going to turn them on and off. And it's going to describe what happens for each one, like real quick. And it's not going to be related to the output page. Just quickly what happens, like quick rundown. And then only these ones in yellow. So your construction override, all the operating risk and financial risk, that will be your sensitized. That will be your sensitized case. So I'll make these in line. That is your recommended structure, or is your sensitized recommended structure case. And then you'll have at least two more downsides. You're going to hit them different ways. Like one example would be you don't take the sensitized one, and then they all have to be under the recommended structure, and you say you don't do the operating risk or financial risk, but you hit them instead of plus 20%, so you hit them plus 50%, and then you also extend the length of construction from whatever it's 6 or 7 periods to like 10 periods, and just see what happens. And then the same thing with the downside too. You could have all the sensitivities and just increase them, but harder, and then you could do more downsides if you want. All right. So that's kind of like the gist of how it is. So, and then to build that in, right? So what I'm going to build in here is really just toggling between the different groups. So when you do the individual risk and description, you have to do these individually and turn them on and turn them off. But as a group, I'll show you guys how to build in these scenarios. So really all we're changing, so everything's the same. You built your DSCR, you have these output pages, which I left you guys the formulas. So all we're really doing is just kind of copying in. We're just summarizing the model as an annual, but we could kind of paste it into the into there. And like, don't worry about all this stuff. This is more like technical things, like the loan life coverage ratio. These are just analysis stuff. And these are just summaries. So I don't know if this one works. Some of these aren't fully fleshed out yet. This gets noted in the box. Yeah. So just these output pages should be fine. You should check them out, make sure they're operating according to plan. And then, so what you're really going to be doing is you're going to be changing. You'll be toggling between downsides, and then go into these output pages, copying and pasting these. Copy, and then you'll paste them into PowerPoint. So the downside case, like this, and then you paste it. Oh, I think I pasted the wrong one. Okay, so I paste financial case. So yeah, we paste the financials here. You just paste each one into here. Size it, and then you kind of just talk about what happens. And then when you talk about it, it's just like trends. Like how is certain, like talk about like how periods in which there's a shock and how it affects the DSRA or DSCR. And you just kind of want to have like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 bullets with like 2 or 3 sentences on like specific stuff. Like you're just like, you look at it and it tells a story. You just want to look at it and be like, all right, 2026, a lot of this stuff happens. Maintenance, CapEx, how does that hit this? And then you kind of want to link that to your downside. It's like the downside, I did blah, blah, blah. And then as a result, this happens. It's kind of like, especially like with the sensitivities, you'd be like, what the shock is, or I guess like shock hit this especially hard. And it would be like fuel costs or something like that. And then you could talk about that. You mean just like it's cause and effect. It's cause and effect. And the cause is the cause and effect and how it affects trends. It's just like a trend analysis based on the different shocks. basically what you want to talk about in these different things, and each one is pretty much the same thing. And these are same thing. Just talk about what happens, and then so your recommended case, your recommended structure will just include these three that will show up in the PowerPoint. It's just those three. That's the one you want to put out, and then you'll have this tab here with the sense. You have it all six sensitized, and you just talk about each one. Like just talk about the trend, or I guess like what happens versus non-sensitized case. So I'll send this slide out, and then this one will just be the three broad cases is kind of like a quick overview. Like very, very snappy. So because the purpose of this is when you have, well, actually put that down. So after, this is for your credit committee, it's for the executives in your bank, and they don't really have a lot of time. And so you're trying to make things as easy for them as possible. Okay, so that's kind of like what it should look like. And then just to build these scenarios. So I sent you guys, so you have your recommended downside 1, downside 2, and then your borrower case. So really, your borrower case is just everything that's normal. So what we do is we go down here, and you have, these are the 4 options. And so what you're really doing is you're building this data validation tab, which I've covered before. So if you don't remember, kind of go somewhere before, and then remember that this active case thing is linked all back to time, so you know what case you're in. And then so when you're toggling, you're just toggling between these assumptions. So really, it's like an if-then with everything right here. So when you want to shock nameplate, you have, this is the normal nameplate, and this is like the sensitized nameplate. And like, you kind of just have to choose which ones you want to go through. So I have more in here than you would do. So you could change days receivable, you could change Bonnie Light, you could change the LIBOR rate, construction costs, like forced outages. So each one is pretty similar. So all you're really doing is I'll do one, and then you guys can see. So whenever you want to do a shock, you have to choose which assumption you want to shock. And then you would build out this kind of like scenario where you could toggle between these different ones, and it'll turn on or off based on the grouping. So your recommended, so this is your recommended sensitized case. So like I said, for the output pages, you're only going to include these yellow ones in your recommended sensitized case. So I would recommend doing each one of these individually, and then just seeing what the results are on the output page, and just taking a quick note, and then that's how you're going to populate that one slide. Construction overrun, blah blah blah, all three. What happens? And then you're going to see what like the big takeaway is versus the non-sensitized case. Or we could even put in the non-sensitized case in here. Let's do that. Sure. Squeeze it in there. And this is just big. These are just big takeaways. It's just kind of like something to kind of look at. Just so you have like a baseline to compare it against. Let's make sure this is going. Hello. So your non-sensitized case, remember, is this your normal case just with all the additions added to it, and then your sensitized case that you're showing in here just has the three changes to it, or has the three sensitivities added to it. So like, and the reality is we would only want to model like half of these. These are doing all these would be a lot. So just include half of them, and then we'll see what it kind of looks like. But having all of them would be a lot. It wouldn't be like realistic. You know what I mean? Like, so you only want to show like a realistic case in there. But then you still want to see what the individual things are. And then when you talk about certain risk and your risk and mitigants, talk about fuel risk, talk about other types of risk, you want to call back to your sensitivity analysis. So you would call back to like see slide, blah, 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 whatever slide it is, or this slide. And you kind of just talk about, okay, I sensitized cost overruns. It really didn't do that big of it. It didn't really cause that big of a trouble, or blah blah blah. And you talk about that in your mitigant. So this is kind of your callback slide to where like you're kind of testing the sensitivities on it and then seeing if it really is that big of a deal. So that's kind of what that is. And then so yeah, so let me show you how to build the one of these. So let's do one of the examples, which is fuel price risk plus 25%. So let's find fuel price. So here's the fuel price. So we're just going to hit Bonnie Light. So this is your borrower case, which is the stock. It was 70. So you leave it at 70. You're down your recommended case. So it was. So we're actually not going to include it. Actually, let's do one more. Construction costs overrun 20%. Let's do that. So here's your construction costs are. Construction costs. Let's just find it. There it is. It's down here. So here's your construction costs. So I have it as, so this is the actual price as your borrower case. So you could do it where you just put the actual whole numbers and have it populate there, or you could do it as like a percentage. So right now I have it if our recommending case is 20%, and then you do a downside case, say is 50, and then one is so this is, you can see it right now. So let's do it at 60, 30, 50. There we go. So you kind of just see it. Put if M6, which is this M6 right there. So the way it works is this is kind of like the drop down menu for this. So you go to data validation, and then see where the source is. That's the source for the drop down menu. And then you have so I then use index match. So, or you could use if then, or you could use if statements to be if that equals, like, so you would lock that cell. So you would lock that cell. If that equaled that, then you would say 1. Or, you know, if that equaled that, you'd say it would be 2. And then if that equaled that, then 3, and then you just say 4 because that'll be the last one. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot if. That's really what's happening. So I'm using index match, which is kind of a more complicated way to do it. It's almost like a VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP. You guys can Google how to do that, have a specific way to do that. And then what I'm really doing is I'm just changing, when I do the toggle, it just changes this number. And that number is kind of like the code to turn off or on the other stuff. So like, I guess. There you go. doing a bunch of nested ifs, and then you can see it. So like by having that be by toggling, you're kind of turning on different. You're turning this number to you're turning the dial like 2, 3, 4, and then when you go down here to do your code, it's this 1 plus, which is times 375. So you're toggling between. You're doing the same thing again. Like if this is 3, then if that is 3, then you do that number. If that is 2, then do that number. If that is 3, do that number. If that's 4, do that number. That's how you're toggling through different scenarios. So another way to do it is you could do choose. So another way to do it would be, I'll do it next to it. You do choose, and next number would be that. Then the values would be 1, comma, 1, comma, comma, comma. And then this would be the increase. And then you just do 1 plus times the base amount. You could use choose, you could use these multiple ifs, but all you're really doing is trying to select different scenarios. And so same thing here, force outages. So force outage. We're just doing different variables for that. Like it's the same, let's do one closer up. So nameplate. So this is, so if you want to change this, if this is a downside, like this one is easier because we're just doing 80% and then 100% on there. So, or you could do it as, so there's different ways to do it. You're just trying to populate a different scenario with these numbers. So you could either do it by percentages and calculate it in there, or you could do the calculations in here and then change it and then have it populate like that. So remember, you could use choose, using the number, this number, and then you just got to do commas. That's easier actually. And then it just populates whatever you want. So you could either do the calculations in here, or you could do it like we did down there, where you put the calculation inside construction costs, and then you have the numbers in there. So it's just preference. And then so that's how you're going to do that's kind of how you're going to toggle between the different cases. So the downside, you could add, you could just pick whatever variable you want or assumption, and then we'll sensitize it. And that's how we could toggle through different ones. And then we could get these different output pages. And then from the output pages, we'll paste that into PowerPoint. And then you just talk about them. And it's kind of just kind of size risk. We're just trying to do different scenario analyses. Right? And then you'll have the different charts just to kind of see and then just talk about each one. It's like, it's pretty straightforward. It's just kind of complicated to kind of choose. You just got to wrap logic around it about what you're doing, why you're doing it. And then, but all you're really changing, so we're only hitting it right here in assumptions. So we're just changing different assumptions, like grouping them in different, almost different worlds. So this is our expectation, downside 1, downside 2, borrower case, recommended case. So in reality, when you change the model, so I would recommend saving 2 versions. So when you're going to change the model out of the recommended case or out of the borrower case, you're going to like the borrower case, you're going to have the borrower case assumptions, but the structure of the model will be different. So you'll be going into CapEx, or you'll be changing things in here that aren't in the assumptions. And really like if you're changing, you could change the whole model basically through here, but there's certain things like, so if you want to change the amortization, so if you go back to the amort, and I have it in the other model, I don't have it in this one, but I know I do have it here. So if you do want to change the amort, you could just rename this amort instead of custom style or whatever. You could just name it see, we did the same thing here. So you could just even just rename it like, you could just rename it to the different cases, you know. So you want to put different cases in, recommended versus downside versus borrower. Or really like you're recommended, so you're really just gonna have two. Here, you could do this actually, it'd be easier. So, or yeah, so you could just kind of come here and change it. So like your mortgage style would be, this would be your borrower case. And so when you toggle to borrower, just remember to come back to debt and then toggle this back to borrower or mortgage style. And then when you toggle this to the other ones, remember to toggle it back to the other style. So that's kind of what you could do. You could link it, like we could link it if you want to make it automatic. So just keep that in mind. And then I don't everything else you're going to change is going to be on here. So like if you change your dividend rate, just we could change that to get your MPV. Just remember to do it in here. Like there's not much else you would do. One thing you might change is timing. You could change the timing in here too as well, like the length of periods. You could do everything. You could kind of control the whole model through here. So if you're going to do your scenarios, if you're going to do your sensitivities, just do it all through here. Especially if you're going to do any of the changes in the model to get to hit those three outputs. This is confusing. I'll host if you guys want. I could host. Let me know what time works good for you guys, and like I could kind of show you how to do this more complicated scenario stuff in person. Because I think for each person we'll have each person will kind of have like a different situation, and maybe I could help you guys use it like that. So yeah, so that's how you do the scenarios. Sorry if it was a little complicated. It's not as easy because we're kind of building on top of the model. But the whole main gist is you're changing things, specific things, and then you're ending up with these new output pages. And then you just want to copy and paste these output pages into here, and then you just want to talk about it. And then the same thing with the charts. So it's kind of like repetitive. You figure out what you want to change it, copy and paste the output pages and charts into here, and then you talk about it. And you do that you get the stock case, the borrower case, and then you have it for your recommended structure. That's your recommended sensitized case. And then you fill out these things too. Just remember to do that. Just kind of a quick overview of what's going on. And it's repetitive. Like you're gonna repeat things, but it's just like snappy, like blah 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 blah, like quick. And like you're talking about just like here you kind of talk more about this. You would talk about CAGRs, the compound annual growth, or what. And then fuel costs would be per year, and then OpEx would be like a percentage of as a percent of revenue. And CFADs would just be, I guess, would just be about like your DS, your like average debt service coverage ratio, and then any like then your shocks are just kind of like stressful or stressed periods, and then detail is just like really it's just like for these it's more important for these. It's like biggest difference from is your sensitize from the recommended in the unsensitized case. And this would just be biggest diff from the what's it called? From the borrower case. And then same thing here. Yeah. And then the same stuff here. It's like Kager's through, so it would be Kager's your compound annual growth rate. So it's just your Kager's from also I added this other row here just to help with the you'll notice that just to help with this timing. And then so your Kager's you're only gonna do the Kager's through the debt service period. So it's only from through June. So really it's gonna be from June 20 through June 32. And it's just the growth rate, and then same thing. And you're just gonna talk about the same stuff. Like, where'd it go? And you're also gonna do fuel costs as a percent of revenue. DFAD, same thing. Average GSRA, anything below, any times below. Shocks versus non-sensitized. The biggest difference in detail is like, yes, I guess it's not as, let's make this. Yeah, let's switch these around. Yes. No, I'll send these new slides out. Yeah, and you just kind of repeat all this. It's just quick. It's a high level, snappy, all 6, and then use these different 6 risks as callbacks in your risks and mitigants down here. So you could talk about them more in depth here. All right, yeah. So here, let me resave this. I'll resave these 2 slides, and then I'll resend this whole template out again, and then let me know if you guys have any more questions. You guys will have questions. It's kind of complicated. Wish we had more time on it, but it's not. But once you guys get done with it, versus Diamonds class, this will be a more thorough, I guess, real life application of what you would be doing in project finance. So beyond just the financial modeling, this is kind of like the modeling is only one component of it. Like how you're taking the modeling and putting it in a frame of reference and thought, how to communicate that frame of reference and thought to an executive. It's very important. And these skills, these PowerPoint skills, are very underrated in finance. And even if you guys don't go through working in finance eventually, like these PowerPoint skills and communication skills will be good in other consultancies as well. And really, when you're a banker, you're really just a consultant. You're a financial consultant, or you're a consultant. There are financial consultants. Those are like PwC guys. That's not the same as banking. Banking is you're hired on as like an advisor, and this is the way you communicate with the client. So, yep. Thanks for listening. Let me know if you guys have questions, and I'll follow up any. I could set up TA session, like another like office hours, or I could do like a virtual thing, or we could talk on the phone, or screen share, and you kind of can tell me what your issues are, and I can help you guys get through it. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Hopeful for this is helpful.